Roosevelt. Mooney was an avid Nazi supporter, and General Motors provided moral and financial support to Hitler. It also provided trucks, armored cars, tanks, jet fighter planes, and other war equipment to the Nazis well into the war against the United States and its allies. The Kaiser Wilhelm Institutes became the center of German eugenics medical research early in Hitler's regime. Three of the most prominent were the Institute for Psychiatry, the Institute for Anthropology, Human Heredity, and Eugenics, and the Institute for Brain Research. All of these received American funding, especially from the Rockefeller Foundation. Using the model of American-style philanthropy, Germany had attempted to compete with American science and medicine by forming the Kaiser Wilhelm Institutes in 1914. German medicine and scientific research, which had been world-class, had been paralyzed by defeat in World War I and by crippling inflation. In an attempt to save German science and medicine, the Rockefeller Foundation decided to fund German government research institutions. Beginning in 1922, the foundation awarded hundreds of fellowships to German scientists and institutions. Since U.S. and German relations were still uneasy at that time, most of these were administered through the Foundation's Paris office. By 1926, the Foundation had given the equivalent of $4 million to German research. Even some German scientists were complaining about the Rockefeller Foundation's control over German science. In 1926, the Foundation began supporting the newly formulated Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Psychiatry under the direction of Ernst Ruden, who had just begun collecting records about German families, similar to those of the ERO. However, Rockefeller funding for Ruden ended in 1937. In 1927, Germany added the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Anthropology, Human Heredity, and Eugenics, with Eugen Fischer as its director. This institute was funded by the German government and the Rockefeller Foundation. Fischer was a longtime friend and collaborator of Davenport and an associate of the Carnegie Institution. As mentioned earlier in this chapter, the Carnegie Institution funded a large contingent of scientists and officials to attend the grand opening of this institute, which was held during the 5th International Genetics Congress in Berlin. In 1929, the Rockefeller Foundation funded the renovation of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Brain Research, which then became the center of German race biology. By 1936, under increasing criticism, the Rockefeller Foundation had become increasingly reluctant to fund Nazi German science. However, some funding continued until at least 1939. The rationale behind the Foundation's funding for Nazi eugenic science was well articulated by the director of its Division of Natural Sciences, Warren Weaver, who stated in a report to the trustees, "Work in human genetics should receive special consideration as rapidly as sound possibilities present themselves. The attack planned is a basic and long-ranged one." A year later he specified that the long-range plan was to develop so sound and extensive a genetics that we can hope to breed in the future superior men. The Rockefeller family also contributed to the Nazi war effort through its business interests. For example, Rockefeller-owned Standard Oil of New Jersey shipped fuel to Nazi Germany through neutral Switzerland after the United States had entered the war. Rockefeller-owned Chase Bank was doing millions of dollars of business in Nazi-occupied Paris after Pearl Harbor, with the full knowledge of its Manhattan office. International Business Machines, IBM, began contributing to Davenport's eugenics research during his research on race crossing in Jamaica in 1927. Davenport was worried that mixed breeding would lower the standards of Western civilization and wanted to systematically survey the world for mixed-race populations. He believed, for example, that well-established races were harmoniously adjusted. He wondered about such questions as this: if a Scot, a member of a tall race, mixed with an Italian of shorter stock, would it yield offspring with inadequate organs, since the Scot's organs were adapted for a large frame and the Italian's organs would be too large for a small frame? Multimillionaire Wycliffe Draper gave Davenport the funds for a demonstration project in Jamaica. Davenport collected his data using a new system created by IBM, punch data cards processed by Hollerith processing machines. These punch cards could store an unlimited amount of information about people, including family trees, location, specific traits, religion, race, maladies, bank accounts, and so forth. The machines could process 25,000 cards per hour, alphabetize information, and print it out. They were originally developed for the U.S. Bureau of the Census, but were ideal for tracking personal information for eugenics research. IBM monopolized this type of data processing and machinery worldwide. The Jamaica race-crossing investigation was the first time IBM had custom-designed a system to track and report on racial characteristics for a eugenics project. The Jamaican project was considered a success, and the Carnegie Institution published the results. Davenport, who wanted to expand this research worldwide, developed and chaired a committee on race crossing within the IFEO. He asked Eugen Fischer to join this committee and be a partner in